Let's crack the list down right now, because we're going to do this shit quick.
All right, so, like, are you going to, like...
I'm going to break...
Are we starting from top tier, or are we going to start from the bottom? Like, can we start from the bottom?
Hold on, before we do the tiers, I want to make sure I get... Let's break it down to 30 before we can get to the tiers.
Okay.
All right, so let me write some shit down real quick, okay? Because some of this I'm going to break down real quick. I'm going to put right here, I don't know if niggas can see, let's put legends. Because some of these niggas on this list is legends, and they don't need to be in fucking tiers, okay? Let's go first.
Well, I guess.
Can we agree? Keith Prayer is a fucking legend.
Hey yo, shout out to Nell Striller, shout out to Young Duns, shout out to Ty Mills, shout out to Praise One, shout out to Sam Scar, shout out that nigga Straps, shout out to Chris Luck, shout out that nigga Stacks, shout out to Big George, shout out to Be the Boss, shout out to King Sudi, shout out to Randy Sauce, shout out to Black Myth, shout out to Billy Green, shout out to Wells Million, shout out to Elohim, shout out to Mr. Seven, shout out to Ab Gotti, shout out that nigga Mars, shout out that nigga Hottie, shout out to B&E, shout out to Mike Lowry, shout out to Barney Rubbles, shout out to Zeke Marley, shout out that nigga Gutter, shout out that nigga Trash, shout out to Omar Umar, shout out to Young Smash, shout out that nigga Trig, shout out to Cardiac, shout out to Fly Rye, shout out to Me Shack, shout out to True Lies, shout out to Mega Mills, shout out that nigga Moon, shout out that nigga Krills, shout out to Dev Louie, shout out that nigga Left, shout out to 1 2 times, shout out to Jay Ness, shout out to Jack McCoy, shout out that nigga Sin, shout out that nigga Schultz, shout outs to TM, shout outs to Reckless, shout out to Hollywood, shout out to King Draft, shout out Hassan Hood, shout out to 400, shout out to Reem Ali, shout out to Night Shine, shout out to Just P, shout out to Big Reek, shout out to Grim Gotti, shout out to Hank Moody, shout out to Shah Shadi, shout out to Osama, shout out to Troy Rain, shout out to VA, shout out that nigga Flames, shout out to Keith Koa, shout out the Assassin Trap, shout out that nigga Will, shout out to Bill Blast, shout out to my hood, shout out to my city, shout out to field niggas, you know we keep it litty, shout out to my hood, shout out to my city, shout out to Prayer Boys, you know we keep it litty, shout out to my hood, shout out to my city, shout out to field niggas, you know we keep it litty, shout out to my hood, shout out to my city, shout out to Prayer Boys, you know we keep it litty.
Yeah, I just want to send that out to all the artists in my city that's going hard. The city of Plainfield, that is, from Rock Ave to Terre Road.